This is David with All Terrain Nation, and way up north somewhere. I don't know. The Yukon is. Well, who are you? What?
Jose. No, it's Tim Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk.
Jose Esterdahl.
Esterado. Esterado.
Esterado. I like that, man. I like that. What is going on, everybody? Today we have a good show. I will say a good show. We hope it's a good show. The two brothers that we're about to bring in are characters unto themselves. Like they are funny. If you watch their channel, which I'm sure you do, Texas Truck Channel, we'll bring them in just a second. But Tim, we just got back from Chicago. Boy, my arms are tired, as that joke would go. Just flew back in, but it's been a week. We got to see all the mid-size trucks, basically the whole segment now. I guess besides what Jeep wasn't in Chicago, and but we got to literally sit in everything, get a good feel for what's going on, man. And how was your Chicago?
It was good. I can't believe it was just a week ago.
I know.
It just things travel so fast. But yeah, we did a lot of comparisons and things. There wasn't anything new at the show to really show off, but it's always a good time to like connect with colleagues and have conversations and get into vehicles and check things out. And it's always good perspective too. Like when you can look at a Ford Ranger and then like walk across the aisle and look at a Tacoma and like you go back, you're like, oh yeah, that looks different. And because a lot of times things blend together in your head over the period of time you're reporting on this stuff.
Well, it was funny to see like Jill trying to get into the Ranger. I know because y'all in your video you were like, "Hey, this is Jill's first time," and Jill was like looking around like, how do I grab to get in this thing?" Because mid-size trucks are getting tall, man.
Yeah, and it's funny because I took some grief in the Ford Ranger video because I said there's no grab handle in the back. People said, "No, that's the one above your head." And then I literally Jill was trying to use that one. It's just always awkward. You're trying to I don't know. It's just a weird thing. And then somebody in the comments said, "Yeah," he goes, "Go ahead and use that for a while. Wait until it gets torn out, then you can't put the bolts back in because you can't. It's in the body panels." And I'm like, yeah, I still would like to have some sort of grab handle back to Ford Ranger. I don't want to grab. I grab like the top of the seat, like the head, and like pull myself in. It's awkward.
Well, of course, we're doing a lot with the Ranger Raptor. I was surprised. I mean, because it's been a while since me and you were at the launch of it, and that was way back in last April or something when they launched that vehicle. We were at that, so the trucks we saw may not have been completely to spec, but I was surprised. I went to get in the back of the Ranger Raptor, and yeah, once again, there you would have thought there would have been by the door, there'd been a grab handle there or something, because it's an off-road vehicle. Your passengers are going to get sloshed around, and do you expect them to fold that little thing down and hold on that way, or do you do like the one in front? Like I've seen it in common in trucks where they put a little grab handle up by the door jamb there, and seems to work out, but we'll get into more of that. Let's bring in Brian and Craig with the Texas Truck Channel. There's Brian, there's Craig, and if you're listening to this, because I know Tim puts this on his podcast network, Craig looks like he's in a spacecraft right now. His like the Tacoma. I assume that's the Tacoma. No, maybe
it's not. It's a Mazda CX-5, and Mazda doesn't make a truck, so this is the closest midsize truck they have.
Well, explains why you look like you're in the Dragon spacecraft right now, right? Guys, welcome to the show. We've been watching you guys for quite a while, and of course, you guys seem to kill it. You got your little off-road test that you like to do, and you put anything and everything through your little off-road test, which I love. I want to see a Nissan Leaf. I don't know if y'all have done a Nissan Leaf up the hill or not, but
we'll do it.
Okay, there we go. But I'm sure everybody watching here has the views you guys get on some of the stuff is ridiculous, man. So I'm sure everybody here knows you. But what brought you guys to doing this, man? You're in Texas, so trucks make sense. But how do two brothers not kill each other trying to do a YouTube channel?
How about I'll cover the intro and Craig can cover the not killing part. I think that's more of a challenge for him. Kind of long story short, we still joke that we have day careers because we do outside of this. This is a side hustle. We've joked about wanting to start a YouTube channel for years, right? And we actually, going way back, we had a blog maybe a decade ago that really never got off the ground because we lived in different states and we were traveling a bunch. We just couldn't get it done. Well, fast forward, I travel a bunch for my job. Craig still travels a bunch for his job. But COVID hit and I worked in the exhibit industry. And so all of a sudden your trade shows just stopped. So I looked around, I'm twiddling my thumbs. I'm not at the airport. And I went, you know what? Now's probably the time. And Craig, actually, it's Craig's fault. He jokingly said it at a family dinner, we should start a YouTube channel. And I took that to heart and started one. And basically a month later, he's like, wait, we're doing what? He's like, no, dude, you said we should start one. Started one. Here we are. And that's kind of the short version of how that went. But we're here now, and we've actually, but not everyone realizes this, but we were called Brake Check Show initially because we thought it was an entertaining name. And actually, it was Greg told me from Toyota said, "Hey, we love your stuff, but we can't find your channel because we type in brake check and we see car crashes. We can't find your channel." I was like, "Oh man, that's a real SEO problem. We never even considered that." So that's where the simplest version of trucks in Texas came together. To the poetry that is Texas Truck Channel. That's where that came from. And it's been working out since. We had an overnight, basically acknowledgement through the algorithm that, oh yeah, this filter is better. This makes sense. And it's easier to track. So that's pretty much that. And I'll leave the killing part to Craig.
Yeah, it's very simple, boys. It takes a lot of restraint on my part to survive, or for Brian to survive us working together at times. I don't know if y'all are older or younger siblings. If you're older, you understand having a younger sibling. If you're a younger sibling, you're on the list too. So be careful. But yeah, no, it's fun. We do. One of these days, we'll show some of the behind the scenes arguing at each other. Brian does all the edits, and so he calls me. He goes, "Man, I was editing this video. We got so mad at each other." I was like, "Yeah, we did." And
all the time.
It's quite entertaining. And the other genesis of the show is, we kind of jokingly mentioned at a family dinner and like, okay, well, let's do it. But the other thing is, our wives they get sick and tired of hearing us talk about cars and trucks all the time. They're like, "Why don't y'all just do something with that? Because we're tired of hearing y'all talk." So. Because what happens is every time Brian and I get together, or if we call each other on the phone every day, we immediately get into an argument about whatever vehicle we're driving or going to drive or that just got released. And so it's pretty natural on camera. It's just everything we're always arguing about. It's just on the camera in that particular moment. So.
Well, I understand the fighting part because I've tried to get Kelly in here to do some editing, and it's like it takes 4 hours to do like 30 seconds. I'm like, no, I'll just go back. I'll handle this. So I understand it from a spouse perspective, but
well, and that's why Craig doesn't edit.
But so you guys recently started buying vehicles, which you've seen. I know you've seen TFL do it. Tim does it. I do it. Like the best way to get experience with a vehicle is literally to go buy one because we all get press loans. And sometimes, 7 days is just not enough. Either, like you said, you may have day jobs, so you only get limited time during the week. And then maybe a weekend when I'm assuming you guys, that's when you go do your off-road tests and have all your fun. There's such limited times. So buying one makes sense, right?
Yeah, absolutely. And this is, like you said, it's new to us. We've been leaning on the press fleet or local dealer partners we have pulling vehicles that way. But as you know, if it's a dealer car, we're apprehensive to do much with it because someone's going to buy this, right? And a press loaner, we'll lean on it more because that's the point, is to test things. But someone's going to have it next week. A different journalist is going to need it next week. So we don't want to totally damage something. If it's ours, we can just do what we need to do with it and deal with it. And that's on us. And there's no one waiting on us. So that's been a real freedom that we've just recently gotten to the point to be able to do that. And we've been looking at you guys for a while doing this and going, man, that'd be great to get to a point where we can make that happen. And it's worked out great. And we can also stagger out comparisons better because we have one of these in our control. We don't have to schedule something. It's just here. That's all you got to do is find the other one. So that makes it easier.
The other thing is we be careful saying this, but we really test these vehicles kind of hard. And because of our normal jobs, it's perfect because it gives us real life situations to actually use these vehicles, how people are going to use them. And so works out pretty good. I have the joy and privilege of I have a 50-mile commute. And fortunately about 40 miles of those can be on dirt, and it's a lot of fun. So I can take some of these trucks at speed and really do some things on dirt. And it's a lot of fun. And we'll get the cars back. And at the end of the week, we're like, man, maybe that was a bit much. I don't know. Maybe we need to be careful. And so having our own, it was, that Jeep, I think it probably still has mud on it on the dealer lot that's trying to sell it. So
it does.
Of dirt and mud on that sucker. So
that's awesome. So you're the reason the press fleets that me and Tim get afterwards are all beat to shit because you guys take care of that.
We don't beat them up. We just make them filthy,
Yeah.
absolutely filthy by the time they go back. We've actually pressure washed vehicles in the driveway because we go, man, they're just going to think we went down a mountain or something. They're not going to understand that it was muddy the day we filmed, and we'll knock it off here because it looks so bad. We just feel bad.
Well, you know, Tim up there, he likes to get Bronco Sports stuck in mud. So
nothing wrong with that, Tim. Nothing wrong with that.
You got to test them.
Either get that or you get deer blood. I get accused of both things. So this 50-mile commute, though, 40 miles are on dirt.
40 miles can be on dirt. I have an option, and it's wonderful. Let me tell you.
I know I live in the middle of nowhere, but when I can't drive 40 miles on dirt on the way to work or something, I don't think I could.
It's beautiful. So what's great about it is Google Maps does never suggest the dirt road. And one of our maybe a fun games or irresponsible games is seeing if you can beat the estimated time on Google Maps.
Yeah.
The beauty of the dirt road is Google Maps never suggests it because it thinks it's only a 30-mile-per-hour road. Well, I'm just saying some of these roads, they technically don't have speed limits. So
not posted at least.
Some vehicles like Raptors, ZR2s, those sort of things can handle 80 miles per hour on those dirt roads, and then your ETA on the Google Maps game, it works real well. So
that's a fun game to play for sure.
Nice.
Yeah,
I like the Dukes of Hazzard testing. I do it quite often. It's fun things. It is impressive how much the suspension on the Raptor and ZR2 smooths that out. Like you can do 80 in a Raptor on washboards and feel like you're doing 20. It's so and like I tell people all the time, like yes, Raptors and stuff are made for off-road desert racing and all kind of stuff, but a lot of people would be beneficial to have them in the country just for the washboard aspect.
Absolutely.
It's one of that's where I think real world testing is. I'm not going to go rock crawl all the time. I'm not going to go,
right.
I can't drive to Arizona every weekend and just go as fast as I can. It's like, no, this is real life stuff.
Right.
Yeah. So you guys buying vehicles now, when there's money on the line, are you as rough with the vehicles?
Yes. We are
probably rougher.
Okay, good.
Absolutely. In fact, we'll go if that breaks, we'll just modify it and we'll deal with it. And
or it makes a good episode.
Exactly. Look, when we bought the Tacoma, we left the dealer, got some barbecue because we've been there forever, went straight to the hill. I think we'd driven it 9 miles or 11 miles, something like that at the time. And we said, look, these side steps, if they drag and bend off, then they're broken. We'll take them off. So be it. Now they looked out, they didn't actually drag, but we're still kind of hoping to break them off at some point.
Well, I remember early in your video, you were talking about that. You're like, we might break these off.
Those steps are terrible.
They're awful.
I just set a Predator steps for my Tundra, and the same deal, like Craig says, that front step on the driver's side is it's so awkward. I don't know what it is. It's like a couple inches too far forward or something.
Exactly.
And like so, you have to step on the step and kind of lean back into the seat, and you play this weird dance. Like I have to have full running boards just because 5'7" and all on full size trucks, and that I'd rather have the full running board because at least you can step up and in. But the Tacoma is the same deal like the Canyon and the Colorado. It's a little bit of awkward height. Like, some guys can get in easily. Other guys can't quite get in. The Canyon is tough for me because it's just a touch too tall. And the steps are it's awkward. So then I get on the step and I'm looking above the roof and then I got to sink back down to get into the so I don't know. I don't know there's a right answer, but the midsize trucks have gotten bigger. And I think that's something people don't realize.
Well, and these off-road flavors are getting taller too, right? So like a normal two-wheel drive, you probably don't need the step, but they're getting tall enough now where it's arguable to have it.
Right.
Well, and you guys noticed with the Raptor, I was watching y'all's video on that where I think somebody hit their shins into the sand rails that they put on that thing, which I wish that was an option with the Raptor. If they had maybe an East Coast version and a West Coast version, because those are sand rails is all they are. They're steps, but they're made for sand. And East Coast guys, we kind of off-road in mud and rocks.
Yeah.
And I need more of a rock slider approach, but I was really digging y'all's coverage on that from Chicago, which is, I'm assuming that was the first time for you guys seeing the Raptor.
Good, Craig.
Did we see it at the state fair?
Okay.
Yeah, we saw that's right. You guys had a pretty big video at the state fair. That's right.
Yeah. But it was the state fair. It was real haphazard, that video. I mean, we barely got to look at it. They had leaf blowers going on and show music. And Tim, you've been there, you know how that goes. And it's just, we actually had to go ask Ford, hey, can you shut the music off for 5 minutes?
So you got him to do it.
We did later on, but I think that video was compromised. But it was just a challenging. We didn't really get a feel of it. And in Chicago, we actually sat down in it for a minute and got our bearings straight, and it was more cohesive, I think, from our side.
And there's nothing like, if any of you watching think filming these videos is rough, there's nothing more rough than you get to a show and they have music playing, copyrighted music playing.
Yep.
I was at SEMA one year, and then suddenly it's LeBron James, and then there's Led Zeppelin in the background. And I understand it because they're trying to build excitement for their booth, but they want people to video content on this stuff and share it, especially journalists. And you're like, what do I do? Do a voiceover on this? This is awful for us.
I've done PSAs on Facebook and that I don't know press group about it. Like, dear auto shows, like if you have a media day, no music. Like, I save you. We don't need it
for show day.
Not media day. For show day. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. It makes it tough. It also makes throwing in an environment. Here it is. Do what you can. And it's like, if you know, I don't memorize press releases personally. It's not a thing I aspire to do. And so you're always going to the fear factor you have is you're going to miss something, and something can be obvious, something big. And so you're like trying to go over detail, trying to explain what you see and your first impressions, but then it's like, oh, I didn't talk about this thing or that unique thing, and somebody in the comments, oh, you missed that piece of it. It's like,
the keyboard.
Thank you for that.
You can hear the keyboard clicking in the background already as you're saying it.
Yeah,
right.
Yeah. And there's nothing like, I have video up of Brian going through the Raptor, and there's nothing like, you're trying to process it. A lot of times you get 10, 15 minutes with this vehicle before somebody's hounding you, wanting to get on top of you. They want their chance. And you've got all this pressure trying to memorize all the notes, and you guys do a really good job. Like the approach angle that y'all were talking about here in departures was great. And then there's nothing like in the back of your mind going, great, now I've got Madonna playing in the background or something. You're like, they're like, because at the end of the day, we go to these shows because we love vehicles, but it's also a job, and we're here. We can't do it for free. So
my favorite one is when somebody walks right in front of your camera.
That's the best.
Who does that more? Written prep. Written prep will walk right through your shot because they're kind of dicks, it seems to be.
My favorite one is that other media will do it, not even at a public show. You're at a media day and there's no awareness of other cameras. And the worst is when they see you and do it anyways. Like, an accident's an accident. But they make eye contact and go, I'm going to keep walking this route.
Well, there's also the game we play where we're trying to punk your shot. So we'll walk in the background because it's when every time you publish a video, people are like, oh, I spot this guy at 6 minute mark. I spot that guy. Yes. Guess what? Yeah. We all are together. We all hang out with people together. It's funny. I get all the time about TFL. Do you even hang out with those guys? I'm like, how wouldn't I? Go to the same events they go to. I have the same restaurants they do. I'm at the same shows. I've known those guys for years and years. It's I basically know. Every once in a while, there's something new on YouTube I haven't seen before, or somebody that's different because things are changing. But I basically you see each other all the time. I've seen you guys for a couple of years now. It's you just see them all the time.
And when when we try to avoid Tim and Dave at shows, maybe we're getting a break, maybe we're trying to sit there and trying to unwind. No, someone yells over and says, "Hey, Texas, come over here and join us." And we're like, "Oh, okay." So we have to sit down and join y'all. We don't have a choice. We have to interact with y'all. Yeah, of course we know each other.
Yeah, the after show shenanigans are always fun. Sure. And that's when you learn your colleagues really well. You get a few drinks in them, you're like, oh, these guys are all right, or you're like, oh, I don't want to be around these guys anymore. Mostly it's Tim over there.
It's basically me. I have to ask you a question though, Brian, because I was watching your video and Brian Craig, the video in the Tacoma. You did the 0-60 test, and I thought it was really interesting because you had made the point where you liked the V6 engine. And you were worried about the gearing. The gearing was the concern. Those are 2 gears. So the new turbos better with better gearing. But the look on your face, Brian, you're like, man, this should be faster. And then Craig's like, it was faster. And then you're like, oh yeah, by myself, I was a full second faster. I'm like, Brian, what the hell do you want? And they're like, I just want turbos to be really fast. What the hell, man?
Oh man.
You want a rocket ship?
Well, thank you, Tim. This is great. Thank you.
I'm like, were you in mode doing the 0-60? I'm trying to figure this stuff out.
First of all, I feel slightly attacked. Second of all, that's okay because I've thought back on this after we did this video the other day, and I've been driving this week, and I've realized that it's not an inspiring powertrain, and that's just the reality of it. But it is objectively better. It is just a better package, and it's the 8-speed gearing, but it's also the mid-range and down low is where the turbo shines, like all small displacement turbos do. And when I do 0-60, I want to hear that in a cams on profile, banging gears sensation. You just don't get that. And this thing sounds kind of rackety. It's kind of like the GM 4-banger. It's not an inspiring sound.
It almost sounds like a diesel.
It sure does. The direct injection is noisy. Yeah. But it's better. It's way faster in your normal driving. I can pull out in front of that traffic and still get it because it is a second faster to 60. And I think it's faster, probably 15 to 60 relative to the old V6 15 to 60. I think once it's moving, it's notably faster. So
do you notice like the turbo dies off at a certain RPM? Like you just like suddenly you're like, oh, here's just the 4-cylinder.
Yeah, we do, but not anywhere near as bad as that CX-5 Craig is sitting in. That 2.5 Mazda hits 4,500 and it is done. It is done with turbos.
It reminds me of the old when Ford put the 2.3 in the Mustang, and I'd take one out, and it was quick off the line, and then suddenly about 3,500 RPMs, it just was like done. I'm done.
Yeah, it's not that bad. I think Craig, you tell me your feedback. I think it's around 5K. You're like, oh, obviously the turbo is not optimized past this. And then it runs out to about 57 or something like that. But it's not like a brick wall. It's not that bad.
Yeah, but nobody buys one. Go ahead, Greg.
Basically, Brian, this is one of our arguments we do have on almost every video and every car, is he gets in every car and he immediately goes to kill mode and thinks it should be some sort of a track car or rally car or drift car. And I'm like, Brian, it's a CX-5. It's a family SUV. It just doesn't matter.
Oh, man.
I don't even know that owns it that'll take it over 4,500 RPM. And so anytime he gets a vehicle that doesn't go full kill mode, he's like, this is a piece of crap. I'm like, but I don't think anybody needs a Tacoma to go to 0 to 60 in 5 seconds. It'd be great, but no one's buying it and cares if it does. Now, that said, I will say, I think we mentioned it on camera, maybe. I don't know. We have so many conversations. I can't remember when we film or not. But Toyota, I think, leans towards saving their vehicle a little bit. And to Brian's point, it could have a little more kill mode. But I think Toyota's, look, we have this reputation we have to maintain and reliability we have to maintain because that's what we're known for. So I don't want to call it detuned, but I think that's kind of what's going on a little bit. It's saving itself a little more than we would prefer because we'll drive other products from GM or Ford or someone else. And it seems like they're letting it go on boil a little longer, and that's what we're missing. I think that's what
I was surprised at the low horsepower numbers when they launched this vehicle. The version y'all have, what is it, 270 somewhere in there?
278.
Which is not even close to the standard of horsepower range anymore. And I know horsepower can be like a measuring contest, really, but Chevrolet's getting 310 horsepower out of their little Turbo 4. Nissan out of a natural aspirated V6, is 310 horsepower. Mm-hmm. And of course, Ford, whether use premium fuel or not, with their offerings, depending on what you get there. But I was amazed that they did not come a little closer to that 300 mark. And obviously, when you get the hybrid, we know what that's 330 something there, which is a drastic difference. But you would have thought, maybe you're right, maybe they are saving this for just reliability.
It feels to me, and back to Tim's initial question, that was really what I was referring to. It did not feel optimized. If you drive, I'm thinking of like the Veloster we have, the Veloster N. That thing is doing the best it can with that displacement and that level of boost. The Toyota feels like it is capable of more and it's holding back the whole time. And that's probably because it is, and it will last forever. They do have that to handle, and I'm not writing that off. And it is a better truck tool. So my main comment is when we're ripping it, I feel like it's pulling timing instead of advancing timing and maximizing horsepower to red line. I would love to see a tune on this. It is begging for a tune, and it'll probably be a ripper.
Well, that's Toyotas are one of those. I know Nissan tuning's pretty available. Ford's pretty available. I've never heard much of Toyota.
I haven't heard that one either.
Yeah, you don't really hear much about that.
I've spoken to there's 2 tuners out there for Toyota, and they haven't even purchased their test mule yet. And they flat out told me December at the soonest for a tune.
Yeah.
So that's where it's at. They do some NA tuning for the V6. You can only get so much out of an NA setup. We all know that. So I think this is going to have a lot on the table. I hope at least. Look at the Ford stuff. 400 wheel torque happens all the time out of a 2.3. This should be pretty close to that with a good tune.
The other thing that's really interesting, I think, with the brands is the owners have such a different expectation of what they want out of them. So a Ford or a GM owner, they're really more in a hot rod mindset. They're not thinking about long-term reliability. They just want it to go, and they're not afraid to do things with the vehicle. Whereas a Toyota person's like, man, I want this thing. I want to pass this to my great-great-grandkid. So there's a little bit different mindset. I want to save this thing. perfect example of that is we posted this video in the forums, in the mud forums, and I hate mud. And the first comment we get, and y'all know comments are wonderful. The first comment we get is ripping Brian for how dare you launch it in four-wheel drive, 4 high. What are you doing? And of course, we comment back, well, we're trying to reduce wheel slippage, and we tried in 2-wheel drive, four-wheel drive high. We didn't turn, we didn't bind the system, but that just kind of goes to show the Toyota owner mindset of how dare you do something aggressive in that vehicle. It's pretty funny.
Oh, I remember another channel doing that in a Nissan one time, and they got ripped up pretty good for that for some reason. That was COVID times, though, when you were trying to come up with any idea you could to do that.
Yeah.
Walking around this thing, so build quality. These things took forever to get out. I mean, I think for horsepower, that's always going to be with this truck. That was the number one thing I'd get comments about was, hey, no V6, I'm out. How has been the build quality in the exterior of this thing? Have you guys noticed anything, any issues? Since this is the first truck that Mexico? I forget where they're building these, but it's kind of the first new launch of that vehicle. Have y'all seen any issues?
So we've actually debated on this because usually when you buy a vehicle, it's always good to go over what's the product you're really getting. And this is the first batch truck. So we're like, hey, if there's a problem, we're probably going to see it. And I can confirm we have one rattle in the tailgate, which is probably a 10-cent repair. And then the Bluetooth doesn't want to ever really work, which is probably going to get an update, and that'll be the end of that. Craig, I don't know about you, but I found remote start on the app just flat out doesn't work half the time. And other than that, that's kind of it. It's like shockingly well put together. Oh, no, actually, Craig, the rear bumper, we haven't talked about this yet. I watched the truck yesterday. The rear corners of the rear bumper are really flexible. I don't know if that's a bad thing or a good thing. It's just a notation. The gap is big, panel gap, and then it like moves a bunch. But I don't know that that's a problem. That's just probably how it was intended to be. So
yeah. And that said, I mean, one of the things we're always a little leery of those first runs of any vehicle because especially, fortunately, this is a post-COVID truck. Y'all know, gosh, anything made in the COVID launches was,
yeah,
you got to be careful. But I will say, going from the Jeep Gladiator to this, as much as we love the Jeep Gladiator, I think pretty early on we called each other and were like, man, Toyota's build quality is pretty good. I mean, and then even it's just from like the plastic finishes, they're just rounded off better. Yes, there's panel gaps Brian's talking about, but they're even all the way across.
They're consistent.
They're consistent panel gaps. So I'll say it's a surprisingly well-built vehicle, especially for a first run. I think they've done a better job with this Tacoma launch than they did with the Tundra launch. Now, again, the Tundra was a little closer to the whole COVID thing, so I'm sure that was a little bit of an issue. But no, I'm impressed so far with that.
Yeah, me too.
Jump in, Tim. Sorry, looked like you were going to say.
I just listening to what they're saying. I want to go back to one other question I had for you. There's been a lot of comments about how underpowered the powertrain is, and Dave and I have argued about this a few times because, yeah, you look at the horsepower numbers, you're like, oh my gosh, horsepower is really low, whatever. But I feel like when you drive it, and I've said this in some videos, that I don't know that the average buyer or owner out there would feel like the Colorado is more powerful than Tacoma is off the line. I feel like with the torque and the torque curve, they feel about the same to me for the not ripping it person, right? Yeah. And I'm just curious your thoughts on being underpowered, because you're talking about tuning it because you want more, but it seems like that's more of a thing that you want out of it versus maybe what 95% tile, which is what Toyota builds to and everybody builds to, 95% tile.
Yeah. No, you're completely right, Tim. Like the average consumer, the sensation between the GM and the Toyota is very similar, right? They're the same category of motor, same number of gears. The transmission is more refined in the Toyota. I think overall the whole package is more refined. But again, that's what I was trying to say earlier, is when I'm driving around town, it's totally potent, it's totally capable. And unless you're doing a 0-60 run like an idiot on YouTube, it's fine. There's nothing to complain about. And back to the power numbers too. I know it's 278 sounds like a small number today, but the Ranger's 270, right? With about the same size motor. So it's not like it's completely off base. I mean, it's in the ballpark.
Ranger is almost 300, the 2.3.
Oh, is it?
Yeah.
I thought it was 270 and the torque was more, but
okay. It may be. Ford always screws with their numbers depending on premium fuel or not. So
yeah, you put 93 in it.
Yeah.
Yeah, but nonetheless, when you drive it, and I compare it to a Ranger, in fact, the moment
the 2.3 says 270 horsepower and 310 foot-pounds torque.
Okay, so they're in the ballpark.
Premium, I'm assuming.
I think that's 87.
Yeah, the 2.3 is 87. 2.7's not been released yet. The 3.0 is premium only.
Okay, got it. My sensation when we left the dealer, the moment we bought this truck, we didn't test drive it when we bought it. We just said, no, we'll take it. Let's go. And I told Craig immediately, this feels a lot like a Ranger, and it's the way that it acts and the way that it feels and the way that you just get on with it. And I mean that in the positive way, because we love the Ranger, not even the new Ranger, the current Ranger. It just acts like it's been this way forever. I don't get a first year vibe out of this truck. And I think that's the biggest praise we can give it, is that if you told me this thing came out 2 years ago, I would completely believe you. There's no debate in my mind. But yeah, it doesn't feel too slow when you're just driving around town. It's actually totally fine once the turbo's spooled up.
Yeah.
I'll say one thing real quick. Sorry. One of the best things about this Tacoma, I don't know if we've mentioned this on video yet, but it doesn't pipe in any fake noise.
Yes.
And what's good about that is you do get to hear the turbo spool and blow off, and it's fun. I like it. Yeah, you also hear the diesel sounds a little bit, but the diesel sounds not too bad inside the cab.
It's outside
because you just hear mostly turbo on the inside of the cab. And so, no, Brian's right. It's completely fine for the buyers that are going to buy that. They're not going to think it's underpowered at all.
Right.
The exhaust note's such an interesting thing you brought up as far as fake engine noise in the cabin. That is so controversial. Like, I got my Tundra. I bought a Tundra, was it 2 years ago, whatever the deal was, and it had it in there, and I was like, all right, cool. It sounds fine. I didn't think much of it. But God, people were just losing their minds about it, and they're like, oh, I have my friend inside the cabin, and I filmed outside, and you can't hear anything. This is so fake. It's so stupid. I want to be able to turn it off. And they were going into dealerships and going in the back software and trying to figure out ways to turn it off and all kinds. And I'm like, just turn up your radio. I'm like, why are we losing our minds about this fake exhaust note? I mean, people have complained about the Ford EcoBoost in the F-150 as being, you can't hear anything. It sounds terrible. Like, well, I want this truck to sound better. Okay, then you pipe an exhaust note and like, oh no, I can't have the fake stuff. Yeah. Well, hold on a minute. Well, we got a small engine, only puts out so much noise. What do you guys want here out of this?
Well, I think the biggest part with that was when Ford started doing that early on. Some of these companies, they went from a V8, they kept a V8 sound in the cabin, which you're mentally not processing. This is not what it sounds like. Had they just early on just kind of kept it more of a V6 sound or whatever, I think people would have been never noticed, honestly. But I just feel like I think it was the Mustang, the 2.3 again. Like you would get in that and rev it inside, you're like, man, this thing sounds like a monster, and then you realize it's not a monster. So maybe that's they started this process better.
Yeah, it's the whole lipstick on a pig scenario. I think people are just like, but why does it need to sound like a V8 when it is a V6? There's that crowd too. At the end of the day, I feel so bad for Toyota and Ford and everyone else. They just can't win, right? Because they've gone to what is, at least on paper and functionally, more capable platforms, more flexible platforms with twin turbo V6s and things like that. And the V8 crowd will just never be okay with that. It'll never be enough, no matter what, even though it gets better mileage and it probably tows more and all that different stuff. I get it. I would love to have a volume button on it. Like, if we're going to do fake noise, like, can it sound like a panda? Can it sound like, a horse galloping? Can it be quiet? Can you just turn it off? Use the Canva system and give you options if you're going to do that, I think.
Yeah. What has been the one thing about this truck that might sway you from buying it again?
Ooh.
Oh, I know. I'll jump
Craig
on
knows
this one.
There's one thing.
It's my biggest hang up with it. I'm not saying it would prevent me from buying it, but the biggest problem and most disappointing thing is the rear seat legroom. I would just be honest. It's a shame that it's that tight. It should be more. Not that it was really great in the previous model. Yes, they fixed the front row, but the back row is still terrible. And I say that because we've been in the Colorado and the Ranger and the Gladiator. They all have more room that you can actually put an adult in and go to lunch. I would not want to take an adult to lunch in the Tacoma because I know it would be way too tight for them, and it's a little bit of a penalty box back there. Versus a Ranger or Gladiator, I would have no problem putting an adult back there and going to lunch.
Do y'all think that some of that is Toyota trying to keep the overall measurements similar to the previous version? Because each one of these midsize trucks just keep getting bigger and bigger. And we look at the Ranger, or we were all in Chicago, see the new ZR2. Those are almost full size trucks from when I was a kid in the 70s. Like those are big trucks now. Do you think Toyota's really fighting this? Hey, we want to keep this segment. It's a small truck. If people want the big truck, buy the Tundra.
It's 210 inches.
Yeah.
It's a little over 17 foot long. That's the measurement that Chevy uses, that Ford uses, that Toyota uses, that Nissan uses, that Honda uses.
That's
all those
midsize.
Right. Well, it fits in the garage. That's the compromise. So the Gladiator is the only truck that actually doesn't fit in the garage. It's actually longer than 18 foot. And the Gladiator has the most legroom. I have a whole chart on the website about it. And what's interesting is you'll get the comments where I want another inch in the rear seats, look at 1 inch. And then the next guy goes, I'm another foot in the bed. I want more. And it's like, well, look, you have 210 inches, right? So either you get another inch here and another in the back. What I found interesting about the conversation about the rear seats was twofold. First of all, the TRD Pro is useless with the seat in there.
Yeah.
There is no second row, no crew cab. And also the Tundra extended cab is awful, like absolutely awful rear seat legroom. I can't even sit behind myself in the extended cab Tundra. It's that bad.
Oh,
dang.
And so I think Toyota's making the front seats deeper, which is causing some issues. They're not slim. They're thicker seats for whatever reason. It seems like that way on the Tundra and Tacoma, but it's definitely for both trucks. The rear legroom is not a priority for them. I almost feel like with those, like I've seen people do it in Colorado, they just do a rear seat delete. They just take the seats out and use storage.
Yeah, and I think that's probably because Craig brings us up every week. I wish that seat had more room. I think that the reason why I buy the 4-door Tacoma is probably just for storage. You take that seat out and you just deal with the space that you have there. To your point, Tim, the current generation Tundra and Tacoma, the front row ergonomics are wildly better for someone of my build than the previous versions of both. So the front row is like a zero complaint zone for me. The back is. To Craig's point, though, I wish someone from Honda would have been pulled in to do the packaging on the rear seat, because Ranger's using the same footprint and they have room. Colorado's using the same footprint and they have room, and they're all comfortable up front as well. The compromise could be a little better on packaging to make the rear seat just more functional. That's all. Now, from the front seat and having little kids, I don't complain about it. They just kick me in the seat and I deal with it. It's not a problem for me. But you, like Craig said, you're not going to put 4 adults in there and go to lunch. It's too much of it if you don't have to. That's all.
Yeah, do you think that's why maybe Toyota brought their extra cab out? Was like, well, we know, we want to give everybody bed options anyways, which I commend. Toyota, out of all of them, is giving us options. Now, the only thing they're not giving options on is motor wise. Where Ford's giving you 2 options. I wish Chevrolet would. That's a whole nother story, but at least they're giving you some options where the other brands doesn't. You can get the manual transmission, you can get the long bed, and I think manual transmission and long bed were the one things that I heard from before this truck launched that it better have, or really people were going to throw their hands up in arms. And Toyota, they did it. They kept some things in there, and seems like they're able to do some stuff, because when you sell over 200,000 trucks a year and your next competitor doesn't reach 100,000, you can try things. And maybe the extra cab, as they call it, are for those people that go, I don't have kids, so screw it. Give me just a little more room or seat room, and I can throw something back there.
Well, it's really interesting too, because Toyota's known as a company that doesn't give a lot of options.
Right.
So all of a sudden they're like, here's some choices. We're like, wait, what? Who are you again? Like, we get choices? Now, you can't order that truck with the choices you want. There's no ordering process with Toyotas. You have to find a dealer lot. You have to go for that. So I want to go back to when you got this truck. Did you reach out to the local dealer to get it? Did you have it spec'd out? Did it show up? I mean, how were you trying to shop for it?
So we were working with Toyota to try and source a manual TRD off-road. And basically that's going to be another month or 2 until those are actually coming out. And like you just mentioned, you can't spec a Toyota. It's allocated and it's kind of there. You can try and get your name on a list of the dealer. This is, pains to say this, but I got to give all this credit to Craig. He reached out to every dealer within 100 miles and said, hey, if something comes up, call us. And this was, 3 weeks ago? We were doing a car swap in the middle of the week, and Craig says, hey, by the way, this dealer down the road has one. and we just made it happen the next day. Went in there and haggle it out. Of course, because we're going in just off the street, first thing they say is it's 5,000 over, even though we called them and they said, no, it's MSRP. Of course, it's the game that happens with cars. It's the worst part for consumers, I think, which is really unfortunate for brands because they're not trying to do that, but it happens. Of course, we walked out with a very good trade on the Gladiator and then also an MSRP on the truck. So, no, we didn't spec it, Tim. We ended up with these Predator steps and all that stuff that we didn't want because it was just what was on the truck and was there. So, but we looked out to get it, and in credit to this dealer, they did work to get a sale that day or the day after. And, we played the game and it worked out. That's really what happened there, and a lot of luck.
What do you think about the pricing of this truck? Off-road, that was the next big speculation of where are they going to be, and then people flip out. I've seen on the forums, people flipping out about the prices of trucks. You're like, well, if Chevrolet gets this price, do you think Toyotas are going to be like, nah, let's stay $10,000 cheaper just because we like our customers? They follow the industry path. And unfortunately, what was this, like 48,000, I think, for the retail of this truck?
It was 47, but that was with $2,000 worth of accessories that we wouldn't have gotten. And I think most people probably wouldn't get it either. So I'm going to call it, it can be had for 45, I think, if you take your time. And a manual will be less than that. It would have been 42-ish. Look, here's my logic on this. And Craig, chime in, please, on this. The next closest, I'm going to just go to Colorado. Let's pick Colorado as an example, because that's another new platform. It's not an old architecture. It's not a legacy platform. It's a new one. $40,000 gets you a Trail Boss, which I think is the most comparable thing to this TRD off-road that we have. Has a locker of some sort, has ground clearance, wider track width, a decently tall tire. But it feels about $7,000 less nice when you get to the interior. And I feel like for me, if I was actually buying this for me, not for the show, I'd probably go find a 45K Tacoma or 42K Tacoma and wait for it. So I don't think the pricing is off base. Because we all know if you option up a Trail Boss, it's going to get up there too. They're all in the same neighborhood. The reality is the whole market is shifted up. And now the car market's correcting a little bit, and you're starting to see a little give and take on some stuff. And it's just inflation, man. It's hard to blame a brand for that.
So the next obvious question for you guys is, you guys are seeing a variety of Tacomas on YouTube now.
Mm-hmm.
I think everybody's got the same trim you have and the same
batch. Yeah.
So I mean, how much can that's always the issue people understand is there's a lot of competition when you buy these trucks, right? And I've been in competition with people, and I don't know, I feel like I do pretty well with what I do with my channel and my viewpoint. But I mean, does it cause stress thinking about, hey, we have these videos out because everybody else is doing the same videos, or that we're trying to find a unique way to do something nobody else has done? I mean, there's a lot of stress involved in that.
Yeah, and car payments are coming up.
Yeah, I did the math yesterday. We've made the first payment. That's the good news off of its videos. So,
So
the month one is covered. I'll kind of lean to Craig on this, but the Jeep we had no stress on because we bought it $10K under MSRP. We just had such a deal. We traded it in and made a couple grand. It was just cool. Zero stress. We threw miles on that thing. We drove that thing everywhere. This I feel a little different about because it's not really being sold over MSRP in volume. And it's, by the time we're done with it, it's going to be the first batch that needs to get traded in, so it's a reality. We may lose on this, and I think that's part of it. But what do you think, Craig?
I'm not too concerned because it is a Toyota, and because of the resale and the new vehicle and the specs we got, I think we're going to be okay. But as far as stress-wise goes and doing things and getting content out, yeah, that's there. But Brian's done a really good job. I don't know if he wants to share it yet, but we've got some upcoming stuff we're going to do. Actually, right after this, we're going to start our first kind of video on some of the stuff we're doing to the vehicle. But I find it fun. I find it fun to do new things with these platforms and see what we can do and get the feedback from the viewers. Because, well, actually, that's always the best. That's a whole nother sidebar conversation. I love comments. They're my favorite. But no, it's fun. I'm looking forward to the things we have planned for it.
Do y'all plan on accessorizing this thing at all?
Yeah, so that's what Craig's on about. So we actually struck a deal yesterday or the day before. There's actually a Toyota parts manufacturer that is in Fort Worth, and they have a test mule as well. And I went and saw their facility, and we talked about it, and we were throwing their entire catalog on this truck. So that's a dimension we weren't planning on doing. That kind of just worked. So back to Tim's point, I think it is hard to not make the same exact video that TFL is making or someone else is making or a vlogger is making. We're on the journalism side of YouTube, but there's the influencer side as well that's just doing like overland stuff. And, we're a little bit dipping our toe into the accessorizing part of it. So I'm looking forward to that. That'll have some first look stuff on that. But there's already, like you said, there's already some out there that have a lift and tires out there. We didn't get to that in time, and we may not do that anyways. But we've got some other stuff too. We're going to throw it on the dyno here next week and get some, 87 versus 93 octane at the tire kind of stuff. So we're just.
I love when you guys hit the dyno because y'all took the Lightning on the dyno. I think y'all were probably the first to actually put a Lightning on the dyno, which was nuts.
Man, that was pulling teeth because that thing's all-wheel drive all the time. You can't put it in two-wheel drive, and no one makes a rolling dyno at 145-inch wheelbase. So luckily, this dyno manufacturer, Dynocom here in Fort Worth, they built an extension for a rolling road, basically a dual roll or dual barrel setup. And it's never made it on camera, but that drive shaft they built between exploded on the last run and blew through the blast shield and very well could have put a hole in that truck or someone standing by it or me in the cab. It was kind of scary, but it was really cool to get that out. That was awesome. So we're hoping to get a first cut with that because they're a great partner as well to work with. But
nice. Well, I know you guys are going to go in a minute, but I want to end up on Chicago Auto Show. You guys, basically, I was telling Tim before the show, we all have now sat in every midsize truck. It's all out there. Other than the Jeep, obviously Jeep, that's the whole thing. It wasn't there, but you guys just owned a Jeep. I owned a Jeep. Tim's not a fan of the Gladiator, I don't think, so he doesn't care about it. He knows it. But what has been your experience if you were to not buy the Toyota today? Where would you go next? Especially you've said in all these now.
I'll let Craig go.
Okay, well, this is tricky, and it's kind of maybe this answer's, I don't know if this answer's allowed, but the current Ranger, which is actually out right now, the 23 and older, the Ford Ranger trimmer is my jam. And I think it's just that whole package and setup with those particular shocks and suspension. It's funny, all the vehicles we've driven from Raptors to ZR2s to the TRD, Tacoma now, its ride is incredible and it handles all the surfaces well. Those dirt roads I keep going back to, I probably had the most fun with that vehicle out of all the others because the Raptors get really wide and it's hard to have fun on those tight roads, whereas the Ranger trimmer is a little narrower and I could still have fun and have some room to wiggle. And that's probably where I would end up myself personally.
Brian, what would you end up with right now if you didn't pick this one?
Assuming that the new Ranger's not available. So we're talking Colorado, Canyon, Tacoma.
I mean, basically what you said in Chicago.
At Chicago. Man, this sounds probably the dweebiest of answers because I really can't afford a Ranger Raptor. I'm going to leave that off. That's not a feasible thing for my budget. I would look probably at a manual Tacoma TRD off-road. Because the manual transmission part is just so much more fun. I haven't even driven that yet. Tim, I actually was going to ask you, did you drive that at the Tacoma launch, the manual trans?
Yeah, we did actually. We did.
Okay.
Jill and I, we had an automatic, we had a manual. We drove a manual pop minute. I thought it was pretty good. I mean, I don't remember any details. There was Jill's lead-footed, so she has details. Actually, Jill's problem with the Tacoma, which is an interesting problem, was that the lower trims don't have a powered seat, and she couldn't get the pump up seat tall enough to be able to reach the clutch pedal just right. And as we were driving back, and plus we were driving back with the manual Tacoma, it was funny. We had walked around and it started raining, so her shoes were wet and the seat wasn't quite high enough, so she kept slipping off the clutch pedal. And it is funny. I've had some discussions or arguments, more likely, about this stuff. I don't love a manual off-road. And the reason why is the trails I've done are really tight and narrow, and there's rocks and things like that. And other people love the manual because they want to control the torque and the gears and keep things higher revved up. And I get that. I'm trying to focus on not hitting stuff. And so, trying to shift and not hit. And I drove a Tacoma a couple years ago in Pennsylvania, and we had those Predator steps, and we ripped off those Predator steps because I was so busy focusing on the shifting and staying on the trail and avoiding the rocks, then I wasn't worried about the steps. We actually tore the steps off, which is funny because the Toyota rep at the time was like, I told him to take it off before you guys started. You guys ripped him off. So it's time for me. But yeah, I didn't. I mean, I came back from the event. I had people pissed at me. There was like this 50-50 online, big arguments, and I said I don't like it off road, but holy cow, that was throwing fire on fuel in the fire, because people were after me about it, or they're like, yeah, I agree. It's like hard line there in the sand.
I always say the older I get, the less I want to shift. Like, I love shifting in a sports car. I had my Mustang. I would have loved to, if my wife wouldn't have ripped the transmission out of it, I would have bought a manual transmission in my Mustang. But I get it lazier. I had a Jeep. I had a YJ with manual transmissions, and I went off-roading, and it was just, I was beat by the time I was over that day. And I was like, this isn't, because I came from a more independent front suspension vehicle, automatic transmission, doing a lot of hard trails, like comfortable. Mm-hmm. And by the time you're shifting, like Tim said, you got to focus on 16 different things. I was like, you know what? I just want to come out here and chill. I don't want to have to shift all that. But I know there's people that love that.
That's a fair argument. I mean, to me, the manual transmission thing isn't just about off-road, because you're right, that is a lot more complicated. It's like, working at a semi high-low transmission where just going on off a trail. I get that. But I'm going to daily this thing 95% of the time. And I'm a complete idiot, and I want to roll my own gears, and that's pretty much what it is. And I want to drift it as much as I can, and keep the turbo on spool, and not let that's the problem with the auto and the Toyota. Your control over gearing is highly limited, and that's my only complaint with the powertrain is you can't go, I'm going to hold a gear and stay on that number. It just kind of does what it wants no matter what. So that's kind of what it is. But I hear you. For most people, the auto, and honestly, my wife doesn't want to drive them, so realistically, the auto is a good thing for me. I'm just, if I have the option, I'm going to go for that.
Well, people want to feel connected when they drive.
Sure.
Dave, Tim, what are y'all's choices?
Yeah.
It's funny for me. I guess I'll start this. Is that the more time I spend when I GM trucks, the more time I spend with the GM trucks, the less impressed I am. It's one of those things. It's like when I went to the press launch and I drove it, I was like, I really liked a lot of stuff they'd done. A lot of things made sense to me. And then I took a Trail Boss hunting, and I was like, no lights, and it was just, I couldn't turn lights. The headlight switch. It's funny, people make a lot of comments about that wasn't my complaint. My complaint was the lights kept turning on automatically, and I'd even do them off, and they could pop on, and I was like, just stop. And so even if I sat there, it seemed like they would reset itself, and that was really annoying. And then the thing that surprised me was there's no LED lights in the bed, which is something you guys pointed out. Tacoma, the Colorado has no LED lights. They just have that one chisel lamp. Well, when you're getting dressed in the dark, like I don't want the chisel lamp lighting up the entire bed. I just want the lights in the bed kind of light up. So I had to take a lantern with me when I was hunting. But it's funny because, like I said, the more I drove it, the more I've been around the GM, I don't love it as much as I thought I would. I like the Tacoma, but I don't know that I'd probably go with Craig here and with the Ford Ranger. But I would disagree. I think the new Ford Ranger for me, not the prior gen. And I tend to, the more time I spend that damn Ford Ranger Lariat, the more it's like, man, this thing it's just got the features I want, the comfort I want. I like the bigger screen. I know people have bitched about the big tablet screen. It's like some guys said, take up space, whatever. I'm like, you guys are nuts. I mean, the big tablet screen, you have the bigger camera. You can have the dual screen camera plus the radio. You can, it's just better connected with that. And I can't wait to drive them. We're driving the Ford Rangers next month, I think it is. I can't wait to spend more time on that. And
yeah.
I think it's like Ford Ranger. You can, right. The thing that I go with anymore is like, I understand trucks are getting taller. I understand they're getting wider and taller, not longer. They're usually getting a little wider track, a little bit taller. I want to just get in a midsize truck without using the step rail. And I feel like the Ranger I feel like the Colorado can say all come with lifts. It's like, I'm like, come on, it's like, come on, even the Z71's better for me from an overall height standpoint. Trail Boss, I got tired of it. And like Z71, right now, it's the Silverado ZR2 without step bars. Man, I just turn and just
though, Tim, it feels cheap though. Like if you put a Z71, which next to the Ranger Lariat, they should be kind of side by sides, and it's night and day difference. Like,
it's really surprising. I mean, I was surprised, and the more I drove the Colorado, the more that thing to realize that I didn't experience before was it is that direct injection, that pinging.
Oh,
and
sure.
I was sitting there idling, waiting for the sun to come up a little bit, And my God, that drive me nuts. It's like I just wanted to take a big piece of foam and just throw it right on top of the engine and close the hood. Like,
No
and
kidding.
I didn't have any hood insulation in the one I had, and I'm like, that's a big miss. Like, you guys talk about hearing the engines, and I tell you what, that pinging, nails on a chalkboard after a while.
It's
The
not a
trouble
good
is-
sound.
No, it's not. It's noisy. And then we had the GMC version, Denali, and it was silent because it had an engine cover. I'm like, so my take on the GM twins, especially the lower end Chevy version, the accountants won. They didn't do engine covers. They didn't do light switches. They didn't do, it's like they fought to see how cheaply they could produce something rather than meet the objective. You what?
Ford does that as well. If you look under the XL and XLT, there's no sound deadening. No,
But
the engine covers, which Bronco guys bitch to like crazy about. Like, where's my cover? I'm like, I don't get under this hood all the time looking for covers, but it may reduce sound, I guess.
It's a sound thing, and I'm bitching about Bronco not making a roof that's quiet still. So Ford has their own stuff, but you do get light switches and simple stuff like that. Like when designers and accountants get cute, the end user loses, and that's what happened with the Chevy stuff in some ways. They're still great trucks.
And GM's notorious for accountants ruling production of a vehicle badly.
Yeah, no, I think the Ford Ranger's done really well. I think it's much better than I anticipate. The more time I spend with it, like I said, I want to spend even more time with it. What I think is interesting is somebody brought up Nissan Frontier in the comments because it's naturally aspirated. Mm-hmm. The Frontier does all right with the engine. It's kind of surprising with the naturally V8 that does as well as some of the turbos do. But you talk about cheap. Holy cow! Wow, it's like what I think Craig said this in the video where he's like, "Oh, this volume button is the same as been like 1998 Toyotas, like the same deal. You can't get a tuner button, you get a volume nut." And I'm like, "Have you been in Nissan? Nissan's got the same damn buttons for things in the full size trucks, mid size trucks, all the way down to like the Leaf and stuff."
No, it's the same sound system in every vehicle they do. It's the same look. Everything's the same. At least Ford like gives you some options. Every car is slightly different, a little personality. No, Nissan is the king of. We get one, and that's it. You get a truck for them, you get a car for them. And I love the Frontier. I've done a lot of time in Frontiers. But you're right, Tim. Like it's like, well, we got these leftover Titan parts. Let's just cram it down into this little truck and be done with it.
Okay, before we exit, I've changed my answer. It's Frontier hard body, just because the wheels. Let's get it out of the way. Yeah. Let's get the wheels, and that'll be the winning vehicle of the segment. There you go.
Brian, I didn't like those wheels when they debuted, and I remember that truck very, very fondly. I want to answer that. I think GMC for me, the AT4X is probably my favorite truck out of all of it. I love the design of that truck. The one they had in Chicago was a real pretty red. Like Tim said, there's a couple things like the light switch. That's just dumb. Just put a light switch back in it. But the lack for me, GM's the 4-cylinder, the only option that kills it for me. I always want the most horsepower, and that's why Ranger Raptor is appealing to me. Sure. I don't need to tow 16,000 pounds in a little truck, so that 5,000 pound range doesn't bother me. But it's the horsepower, and in 400 horsepower in a midsize truck, I'm going to be jealous of Tim next couple weeks when he gets to
no joke
play around with the truck, and I don't. But mine's weeks away. So.
Yeah, I don't know. It's interesting, to me. I've said this with the Ford transmission. So the Ford 10-speed transmission is just a mess. It's a learning transmission, and people just they just mess it up. And I've always said the biggest problem with that is because when you buy a new truck, you hot dog it for the first couple weeks. Hey, buddies, come over, check this out. You hot dog. And then all of a sudden, you start driving normally. Transmission is like, what the hell? What are you doing here? Like, we need to go fast. I'm gonna go fast. And then it's like, then they have to go in and have it reflash because the software is all messed up. And I don't know. I don't get. I get driving cars fast, but it's argument I've had with people about EVs and how fast they are. Well, I always have stuff in bed of my truck. And what happens? You go fast. It goes against the tailgate, like wham, and you're like, oh yeah, I forgot that was back there, right? I mean, that's always what happens. And so I'm like, I don't need the horsepower.
Are you saying aluminum tailgates can't handle a big chain sitting in the back of the vehicle when you take off?
Sounds like a Chevy commercial.
Apparently, that red toolbox needs to come back out.
Right. Well, guys, if you haven't yet, here's a Texas Truck Channel. I appreciate Brian and Craig being on here. It was great to see you guys in Chicago as well. And I'll definitely be watching for your updates because as someone, I wanted to buy the new Taco, but it was just like so many trucks, so many cars debuting at this time. I was like, I'm going to choose the Raptor. And but I'm happy that you guys are doing well with that vehicle. Anything coming up that you want to kind of pump out there and tell people to come watch?
I think mostly the updates for the truck and the full catalog from the company we're working with is Cali Raised Off-Road and LED. They do Tacoma parts. That's going to be awesome. That's something new for us, and we're going to put literally everything on it. So we're looking forward to that. I also want to congratulate you on your Ranger Raptor. That's freaking exciting. Good choice.
Maybe I'll drive it down for Tawa.
Do that, please. We'll do some head-to-head with that. We'll get him on in the air for sure. We'll have that same track. So,
Nice.
But yeah, thanks for having us. That's what I want to say. Thanks for having us. It's been fun.
Yeah, definitely want to bring you guys back. Once again, go over to, if you haven't yet, Texas Truck Channel. Not brake check. Don't brake check them.
Nope.
And keep an eye on what they're doing, because you guys do a little bit of everything. Clearly, Craig's in a Mazda, which is odd, but
I would say the pink cord he has is more odd than the Mazda.
It's on brand.
It is kind of unique. I appreciate it. He's manly enough to pull it off.
That's right. Well, guys, there's no easy way to do this, so I'll just pull you out. I want to finish up with Tim, but thanks once again for coming on.
Thanks,
Thank
guys.
you. Appreciate it.
Later, guys.
Later.
There we go, Tim. Interesting to hear some of their owners' take. It's weird to say owners because usually journalists don't buy the vehicles, but I really think that's the way. If you really want to give your audience the best overall experience of here's what it's like, anybody can go do 0-60s. Well, they were talking about that, but in 2 months, do they have this vehicle and like, damn it, this fender fell off, or real world perspective on that.
Yeah, and I know from my personal experience, I learn a lot more about the vehicle living in it every day. I mean, you just do. You just, especially driving at night, driving in the rain, driving in the snow, driving different conditions. You spend more time, and eventually you just learn a lot more about it. And it's actually really useful when you go to do comparisons, because you've owned those vehicles, you've driven different trims of it. Like the Silverado ZR2 I have outside, same Duramax diesel engine I had last year for a year, right? So I can speak to the engine at a higher level than I could a year ago because I've lived with it. So you do learn that stuff. I want to give a quick. I'm going to see what I do it. Let's see. Can you put Kevin Nick's comment up on the screen? Any of his comments, or Ken Nick's, excuse me. So I just want to give a shout out to Ken Nick's. He is a member of the channel, but he chose the highest trim of the channel, like the platinum membership. So I don't know if he hit the wrong button. If not, I really appreciate it. And I will be doing a custom video for you, because I happen to, so this is behind the scenes, but you can join the channel as a member. And I happened to look the other day, and I don't go to the screen very often. It's a tab that I just don't use. And I happened to look, and this, all of a sudden he's a platinum member. And I'm like, wait, what? Hold on. And then I had to go in and actually see what my membership perks were for that level, because I had totally forgotten. I had not done any sort of research onto that because I hadn't even thought about it. And yeah, looking at that now, I'm like, oh yeah. So I've been thinking about how to do a custom video for him in a unique way, and I'm going to do it. That's going to happen.
Oh, nice. Is it like that time that I remember one of you had a super chat for like $500 or something? You remember that?
Yeah. And the guy pressed the wrong button.
Yeah, but that was crazy on that one.
He got them. So to clarify this, so you can do a super chat on live streams, and he had wanted to do $5, but he actually hit the button wrong and did $500, something like that. And so he got his money back. He'd emailed me, and the bank, whatever, and YouTube said fine, not a big deal, because I was going to literally download that payment and like send it back to him because I felt so bad about it, but. He did get that back. I forgot about that one. That was a funny.
Yeah, I remember seeing that in the chat, and I remember you were like, "Holy crap!"
I know. I think Jill was.
I
think Jill was in the chat too, and I think Jill was talking at the moment, and like my eyeballs, like, well, holy cow! And then all of a sudden he's like, "Oh crap!" So it's some back and forth on that. But no, we now have 7 or 8 members now, which I'm fully appreciative, because that really does help smooth out.
People don't realize this, Tim. They don't realize, and I'll brag about memberships because we both have some, but that does a lot for channels, because YouTube takes a huge chunk. And I was talking to Tim over the weekend about this, because I had a video that they strangely took more than normal out of, and we don't get all the time 45 to 55% of revenue from these things. YouTube takes a big chunk of this. So when you guys do the extra memberships or whatever, that does help keep these channels afloat, and they're greatly appreciated. I always hate selling myself on that stuff, because it's I feel like it's free content we put out, but at the end of the day, man, it does make a big difference, and it helped us going to Chicago for sure. So
The biggest thing is the ebbs and flows in advertising rates. And so on those months that are like January is always your worst ad rate months, those memberships do smooth things out. And that way you have a consistent kind of income coming in. You're not worried about too much on that.
Yeah,
Now,
and then Chicago's in February.
Right. It's not like 50% of the channel revenue. It's like, 3 or 4, not even 3%, maybe a percent or two, but it does help. So I haven't seen Ken Nix on a live stream, and I hope he's still around, and he hasn't commented, so maybe he left, but I had to shout it out to that because I had noticed it, and I was like, holy cow. So thank you for that.
Well, so Tim, I want to get into you a little bit. I don't want to keep you all day, but the Chicago Auto Show, like I told Brian, we got to sit in a little bit of everything, and this is the first time. Besides, like I said, Jeep wasn't there, Stellantis, whatever their name is, wasn't there, which is not for midsize, wasn't a big loss because the Gladiator's been out for a while. There's nothing new about it other than I guess the 24 gets the new screen. What was your takeaway from getting to see all these trucks in one place? Well, I mean, I thought it was pretty interesting. I think Ford probably won that to me. I am interested in the Trail Hunter a little bit, and I know you've been interested in it. And they had that truck all kitted out, but overall, to me, man, I'm still interested in owning Ford.
Yeah, I love auto shows in that you can see so many different vehicles at once, and you can do comparisons, and you can look at a Ford and walk across the street and go, oh, Rowan, there's Tacoma. It really puts things in better perspective than you can like in a dealership walk, anything like that. Ford had a really impressive booth this year. I was really impressed with their booth. And it was nice to have the Explorer there. Like I hadn't seen the Explorer. They had a reveal for it, but Jill and I were at another event that week, so we couldn't make it. But yeah, it was good to see that stuff there. It's good to see the mid-size trucks there. I always I wish there was always more trims. That's the thing. People are like, well, I did the Colorado Trail Boss versus ZR2 or something like that. And it's like, well, that's all they had. Like that, they had those two models. Which is unfortunate. I love. We used to do a truck rodeo in Texas, and in its heyday, these brands would bring down every trim level of their trucks, and that was just phenomenal. Like getting them all together, that was the best. But it is, and things really stand out to you differently, right? So when you walk around the show, you're like, and we look at a Ford Ranger, like, oh, I like the interior layout like this. You go to Tacoma, you're like, oh, I like these features here, I like this here, and they're like, wait, the Tacoma bed looks like it's smaller. And you go back with look at the Ford Ranger bed. I mean, you really put things in perspective, and you really get to see things in a different way. And I walked away thinking Ford had done a knockout job with that. The Tacomas they had there, as you pointed out, one was pretty beat up, and they just didn't have the display I wanted. Some of them were locked, which is just always dumb to have locked vehicles in media.
Did you have that problem too? I know Corey and some of the other channels eventually got Toyota to open those trucks because in a lot of cases they're prototype trucks and they don't let everybody in them, but journalists they'll usually let in. But yeah, I went to Toyota's and everything was locked up, and it pissed me off honestly because I was like, this is the first chance for me getting in the new TRD Pro. You go get in it, or the new Land Cruiser. I was excited to get into that because that's a potential vehicle for the channel coming up. So I was like, really wanted to experience that, and everything was just sealed up.
Yeah, and you can ask, and it's just kind of a pain in the butt. It's my bitch about media days. Everything should be unlocked, and there should be no music. Those are my two things, and it doesn't always happen. But Chicago is always a great show because it's really relaxed. You get walk around and see stuff. The other shows are really kind of busy and chaotic, and you don't get the same kind of experience. And like I said, even though we can't drive them, it's great just to see the interior and do interior comparisons. I wish I would have done more cross-brand stuff. I did brand to brand, but every year you go, you make a different game plan. You're like, all right, I'll try this year. Next year I'll try that. But I would love to do like I should have done a Ranger Raptor versus Colorado ZR2 and versus this because that's Halo vehicles. People love seeing that the top trim levels kind of go compete back and forth on it. Right. But it is chaotic when you're trying to film and you're trying to remember all your stats and this approach angle, that horsepower number, and I don't have the memory for that anymore. I need to actually, I should really just start creating cheat sheets. I should do a lot more show prep is what probably I should be doing. Get more cheat sheets and stuff because those numbers do matter and it shows you more that you know what you're talking about when you start doing that stuff.
Yeah, the display for Toyota too, that orange, and then we had that kind of two Terra vehicles sitting there or three Terra. Like I was like they blended in, and for video perspective, it's just like, oh man, it's oversaturated.
Yeah, it's it's interesting with those colors is I remember when the some of the greens were coming, or not the greens, the desert tans were coming out. It was like a popular trend a couple years ago. Everybody was doing the desert tan color. In an auto show, they look terrible. Outside, they look awesome, right? And so that's the other problem too, is the lighting sometimes doesn't work to your benefit because it doesn't show the vehicle off as well as it is in natural light.
Yeah, no, I will say Ford's lighting that they had, because the blue on that Ranger Raptor was just popping on that. And there are certain colors for video that do definitely work better. Reds and stuff to me work great, but the Terra, I'm kind of over that color. And I know Toyota just launched that color, but I'm like, it was kind of, we saw it in Texas last year. And it was interesting, especially in the sun. There's definitely, like you were saying, there's definitely a different vibe to it. But I'm like, I don't know, man. I'm so used to Toyota having some fun colors. Like the lime green to me, it's not for everybody. But to see that on the old Tacos is great. You know, TRD John had one, and that color to me on that truck just looks great. So the Terra I was kind of bummed about, especially like I've seen a few now on 4Runner, and 4Runner in general is just like, quit giving, just make a black, white, and silver one right now. You're killing it anyway. So just, we don't need all the fun colors. What was your thought of the Land Cruiser? I know this is sort of it's midsize truck platform. Where were you at with that? Because I've never heard you talk much about that thing.
And you know why I haven't talked much about it? Because I haven't really spent much time with it. I haven't really. Jill was.
I didn't know if you approached the show of like, cool, I want to see this thing, deal with it.
You know, the Land Cruiser for me is kind of interesting. In that Jill went to launch with that in Utah. I was at a family camping trip, so I couldn't make that trip. I wanted to go, but I was doing a family thing. And she went and she looked it up and she drove it. And then a lot of people I watched a lot of people's videos on it, so I feel like I have an understanding what it is. But it doesn't really appeal to me. Like it's kind of weird boxy shape. And I just got done driving the GX 550, which is going to basically be pretty similar to Land Cruiser. I know people are going to freak out about this. It's going to be a lot different. I get it, but I just don't spend much time in it. It kind of pushes me off a little bit. Like the styling stuff is just not for me. And
Kelly brought up a good point about this thing. She goes, it looks like the old Honda. What's their little small SUV? The Ridgeline, or not Ridgeline? Passport, or well, I forget what they're. She goes, it looks just like this old Honda. And I was
it looks like an FJ Cruiser to me. And
definitely they're playing on that, definitely for sure.
Yeah, and so I'm like, okay, so to me it's like. And then they have a problem with it. It's like, okay, so where does this fit, right? So you have to kill the 4Runner now, right? And Toyota's like, no, we're not killing the 4Runner. We're going to do it differently. And I'm like, well, why would you get this, not the 4Runner? And why would it's too murky right now. It's not very clear what exactly this is going to do and where it's going to be. And right there, I mean, that black with the black molding, it just doesn't stand out to me. Like there's nothing that pops for me there. It just looks like a Lego car.
Lexus, something Lexus would do, because they're going to mellow these things out. It reminds me of like, this was a Lexus design that they just sort of went, we'll sort of make it Toyota.
Right. And I know TRD John has done a lot of videos on it, and he's really excited. He's going to buy one, and people have talked about buying. I know Ryan Doffett, Driving Sports TV, is going to buy. He's looking at buying one too, And it seems like it's a lot of money right now, because what they do, the first editions or something like that.
Mid-50s this was the 1958, so this wasn't the first edition. So this was supposed to be the affordable one. But they keep saying mid $50,000 range, which to me is going to be $60,000 range. And I like the idea of the smaller. You know, I know they call this, it's basically a Prado, but I like the idea that a smaller vehicle like this is coming back. But that's still, for a vehicle that you want to go explore in, it's getting harder to want to spend $60,000-$70,000 and potentially go beat up the vehicle that you just spent a lot of money on, you know?
Yeah, I think when I get more press on, I'll understand it better. But Steve P points out it just comes off cheap looking to me, and I had the same appeal. Like the powertrain's the same, like the Tacoma powertrain. Yeah, so I mean so you're basically like, okay, we've taken the same powertrain, we're gonna throw it in this, we're gonna take this, we're gonna make it smaller, we're gonna basically make it a 4Runner looking thing, that different styling. I just don't see much in this I didn't get excited. I didn't get wild about it. Like the prior generation, the big one, I mean, that was fun. I mean, I drove the hell out of that thing. I actually drove that cross country a couple times. I had a lot of fun. The big
It was also $100,000 too.
Right, but see that to me made sense. That vehicle made sense. Now you're making it half the size, half the price, and it's like, okay. And again, like I said, it's an FJ Cruiser combo. What happens to 4Runner now? It just, things aren't settled in my head of where this is at. Like like the Highlander, the Grand Highlander I drove makes total sense. Bigger Highlander for the money, best way to go. They're gonna sell a ton of those. That makes sense. So like, I think that's where, as a journalist in my head, it's like I have a hard time getting excited about something when I don't understand it. And Land Cruiser, I'm not quite sure.
Spy photos came out this week of the potential 4Runner coming out, and I will say it looks to be the same size as this thing, which is the same size as the current 4Runner. It is, and there is a weird price point to that. And of course, we were talking earlier about Toyota and price points. How do you have two vehicles in the same price point? Because if you look at the current 4Runner, and that thing is a dinosaur, it's still mid-50s for a fairly kitted out vehicle. So I don't understand what they were going for. I thought, well, maybe that means the 4Runner goes away for a while and they bring it back as something maybe smaller, but it doesn't seem to be happening. But
look at the Lexus GX 550, the Overtrail edition. That Overtrail is pretty damn cool. I like that version. 2 rows. The third row is a joke in the GX. Don't worry about that. But the 2 rows, it makes sense. And it's was it mid-50s? I think it's maybe 60s. So why would you buy the Land Cruiser when you buy the Lexus GX and have a little more comfort, a little more better materials? Like I said, it's just confusing.
After the show, I came to the conclusion that most third rows are wasted money anyways. Like we messed with the new Explorer, which it's okay. The new Acadia, which is okay for a third row. I do like that they're putting captain chairs in that middle row, so it is easier to get to the third row. But once you get back there, God help you if you're ever in a car wreck, because your face is through the back seat of the other vehicle and your knees are as well. But I wish that fad would go away. Give me a third row in a Sequoia, something big.
Right.
So your people have a little bit of room, but past that, I don't need like that Land Cruiser. I'm pretty sure it's a 3-row. It just kills any cargo room you have. And the idea of small SUVs like that, the 4Runner, are made to be adventure vehicles. And I can't adventure if half the vehicle, I can't put anything in it.
Yeah, and the 4Runner is a perfect example. 2 rows, easy.
Yeah.
No messing around. It's like the Tacoma. It's the 4Runner makes a lot of sense in my head. I thought the Land Cruiser is all muddied now, and I would buy a Tacoma over Land Cruiser, and I'd buy the GX 550 over Land Cruiser. Like, those are easy decisions for me. Like, if I'm already going to be in the $50,000 price point, I'm not going to shop. I'm not going to buy Land Cruiser because of the name Land Cruiser. I'm going to buy a vehicle that suits my needs.
Do you think that's what they were banking on? Land Cruiser has this name, this cachet, that maybe that's going to bring sales.
Yeah, it does, and actually does. So there's a famous story a lot of dealers talk about. Whenever Toyota entered a new market, they always launched Land Cruiser first because it's the best built vehicle they have, and so they always proved their quality, QDR, quality, durability, reliability, and then they brought everything else over. And so they've always have done that. So people love Land Cruiser for Land Cruisers. I mean, there's all sorts of different forums and groups and fan clubs of Land Cruisers. So there's a huge Land Cruiser museum, which they launched the Land Cruiser in, which incidentally, I actually introduced Toyota to that museum way back in the day. So it was kind of a full circle. It was bad. It sucked I wasn't there, but it was kind of a full circle there, launched Land Cruiser there. So, I mean, they have a lot of name recognition with it. I know my friend Kurt Williams is a huge Land Cruiser guy, and I've seen his videos, and he's talked about it, and I've known him for years. Like I said, I think it's too muddied, and I haven't spent time in it, and I just don't know. I don't know. It just doesn't seem like it fits in my world and that's why I haven't talked about it. I've done many videos on it. I think we did. Jill did her video, and I edited her video and did it. And just not. And the thing with Land Cruiser is nothing really stands out to me as wow factor. Yeah, no, like they should have brought a more off-road looking vehicle, because that was such a street. I know it's Chicago, so maybe they're trying to play on the city vibes to that. But that thing did not look. It just like it looked plain to me, and that was a bummer for me for that vehicle, was because like the Series 80 to me, the one from the mid-90s, that's my favorite Land Cruiser. Yeah. It's something about the size of it. It just looks like it belongs in the woods, having fun. And, even back in the day, the horsepower of that vehicle was awful, really. But there's something fun about that. And I don't feel like
even Nissan with the Patrol. And first off, hi Ronald, you must be way early in Hawaii, by the way.
That is really early.
But the weirdness of the Patrol and the Land Cruiser, those two, like you were saying, those are global SUVs. You used to see a lot of Patrols in the Middle East, a lot of Land Cruisers in the Middle East, because they're luxury SUVs and they just got outgrown themselves. And I was happy to see Toyota kind of like shrinking this thing down, and the price was really exciting. But after seeing it, I'm with you. I almost would go for a Grand Highlander. You're getting more vehicle.
Right. And I guguess Jill and I have argued about this a few times. I don't understand the whole boxy SUV trend currently, right? So like the Land Cruiser is especially boxy. It just looks like it's kind of Lego pieces put together for me. The Hyundai Santa Fe, the new Hyundai Santa Fe. If you should find a picture of that real fast. That thing looks really boxy. The Kia Telluride redone looks really boxy, and so I'm not so sold on this. I didn't like the round period of time. We went through this thing where all the vehicles are really round on the corners and such, but now we have these really defined, strong character lines. And Jill seems to like them. I don't know. I'm kind of mixed on this boxy trend we have.
Well, the Santa Fe, the 8-bit looking Nintendo looking headlights are just kind of strange to me. That's one vehicle I wanted to go see, but I just didn't get a chance to kind of go over to Hyundai's booth. But yeah, no, I will say for Hyundai, I like the fact that they're just trying different things. Like they're not kind of following a trend. They seem to want to make a trend. But yeah, the headlights of that thing were kind of off-putting to me.
I know, it just and the thing is, like Land Cruiser versus that, Land Cruiser is very boxy too. It's like I don't understand why it's got to be so. Why this trend is happening? Like we need a stronger boxy looking thing, because I thought the 4Runner, the current 4Runner, is not boxy, but it still looks strong to me. It doesn't have the pieces put together. So
the current 4Runner still looks great. It still looks. If they would have just taken the interior and made it more modern looking.
Well, yeah, and I talk to Toyota about it all the time, and they're just like, all you got to do is take the new interior and then put maybe a more powerful powertrain in there, and you're done. Yeah. Don't change the size, don't change the trim levels, don't change the styling. All you got to do is those two things, people will be happy, and they know that. They just budget, they have to budget out when these vehicles getting redone, that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's interesting where we're at in that world. And Bryce Cooley brings up some points about price, because it always makes sense. I've always got to talk about price. There is no price ceiling, frankly. I've talked to GMC about it, I've talked to Toyota about it, whatever. Automakers don't know where the price ceiling is for these trucks. They keep pricing them, and you guys keep buying them. So you price them higher, you guys keep buying them. So
it's starting to happen though, Tim, because look at Ford Bronco sales right now. They keep jumping the price. My 2021 Bronco was $54,000. I priced it yesterday. It's $64,000 now. The Raptor, when it came out for Bronco, was $72,000. They cranked it up to $93,000, and they're sitting on lots. And I do feel like there's a natural. No, the manufacturers, $200,000. Let's just see what happens. Do you remember about 5 years ago when there was a big deal about the first $100,000 truck? Mm-hmm. I think it was Ram, wasn't it? Was going to do the first $100,000 truck, and people were losing their minds.
And Ford did one actually too. Yeah. What's interesting is Ford did one, and it was like it's a luxury like F-350 or something like that, was over the $100,000 mark. And I was talking to Ford PR about it. They're like, this guy's going to haul horses and horse trailers. And we're like, yeah, okay. And he goes, the trailer costs more than the truck. So don't worry about the $100,000 truck. The trailer and horses cost a lot more than that. So it's like, and those guys want tax. The secret here is people need the tax write-offs too. Mm-hmm. And so accountants want you to spend more money. I have a friend. I just had a friend of a friend bought a new fully loaded GMC. It was like a 1-ton GMC Sierra Denali Ultimate for like almost like $100,000, and like he bought like 3 or 4 trucks that day. Paid cash for all of them, and there was like one boss's truck and a couple of work trucks for the company. That was all for tax write-offs. Yeah. So Steve points out, I just went by a Ford dealership and counted 15 Broncos in the lot, 2 and 4-door. And then you'll see videos on YouTube. Bronco's not selling. It's going. Ford's going to file bankruptcy tomorrow.
We know a couple channels that are probably just itching to do that.
God. Well, and the thing is, it's like ups and flows. I
Yeah.
mean, the thing I don't understand is like pre-COVID, the lots were full of all sorts of vehicles.
Yeah.
Right? They had trucks sitting out the wazoo back then because then they do incentives, they do Chevy Truck Month and blow out a bunch of them, right? And now it's like if the dealership's got 5, holy cow, Ford's going to file bankruptcy tomorrow.
Yeah.
Right? And it's like wait a minute, we're in Europe. There really are no dealerships with lots of inventory. People custom order everything. In the US, we want every color, trim, model, configuration, deal a lot, and we want $5,000 off every time we kick a tire. Right? So it's like completely different buying public, but like pre-COVID, you could walk around lots and you could see all different trim levels and stuff. My Chevy dealer still has quite a bit of inventory. I don't know how he managed it, but the Ford dealer for years had nothing. And I just drove by the Ford dealer today, and he's got 10 cargo vans sitting out front. I haven't seen a Ford cargo van in like a couple of years. I actually was going to call them out and go do some videos of them because you don't see cargo vans at all. And I never think I
got
see
a small dealership that probably has 10 of the Transits sitting out there.
Yeah. I mean, and the thing is the Transit's actually a great vehicle. I just don't I don't lose my mind over how many Broncos sitting around, that kind of thing, because they will sell them or they'll do something with them. What's interesting to me is my friend, the Wheelman, he's got a channel here on YouTube. He went down to a Lincoln dealership in Loveland, Colorado, and they had he said they had 7 Lincoln Aviators that were 2023 models sitting there, and they were willing to give $2,500 off. And he's like, well, but the 24s are coming in now, and if I order a 25, comes in October, that's 2 years newer than that vehicle is you have in lot. Yeah. And they had a bunch of the reason why they had so many of them was if you look closely, you could tell which ones were rear wheel drive, which ones were all wheel drive. They had a bunch of rear wheel drives in Loveland, Colorado that they're not going to sell, right? Yeah. So it's like they should just ship those to Texas or California immediately because they're not going to do anything. So it's sometimes it's bad dealerships too. Like that guy's sitting on 7 Lincoln Aviators in 2023 for dumb reasons. I know in my area there's no Ford Broncos, but when I drove to South Dakota about 2 years ago, I drove by a big Ford dealership up there, and they had several Broncos up there. And my neighbor was looking for one, and so I had to come back and tell him, hey, there's actually one dealership that's got some. So you have these really weird inventory issues in dealer lots where it's like some dealers have a ton, some dealers have none, and there's just it's just weird. And then you also have the really weird regulatory thing where Jeep Wranglers. I was talking to Roman about this at TFL, and he goes, you can't buy a natural aspirated Jeep Wrangler. They're not on dealer lots. They're only 4xEs. And so you can order one, but you actually can't even buy one. He goes, we tried to buy one a couple times. You can't even find them. They're not even building them. So he's like, so people will say, well, here's all these Jeep Wranglers sitting in dealer lots, and why Jeep's not going under and Jeep's not selling. They're all the powertrains that people don't always want.
Yeah. Well, Jeep, that's a mess of a company anyways. I know TFL did a kind of video on that recently, and we've talked privately about that. I don't know where they're going, especially with the new Wagoneer thing, the electric EV thing. They want to be Land Rover so bad, and they don't it's like some Europeans bought that company and don't know what they have. Yeah. They don't realize that trucks and the Wrangler is what kept that company afloat, and they're ignoring trucks and Wrangler to build a bunch of things that I'm scared for that company. I think in 5-10 years, maybe the rest of that goes under and Jeep sold to somebody else, Ram separated. And I could see, because, you put a bunch of turd companies together, what do you expect is going to happen? There's still going to be a turd company, unfortunately, with a bunch of brands under their banner. And I like their products, don't get me wrong. That's a whole nother show on that.
And I think it's interesting with the Ford Bronco too. If you think about the Land Cruiser actually should be a Ford Bronco competitor. But when have you seen a video like that? Nobody's talking about that.
I think a couple years ago, TFL, when they got theirs, I think they had their Bronco at the same time. But no, there definitely are almost price point almost the same too.
That's what I'm saying. I'm not saying the old one. I'm saying the new Land Cruiser.
Yeah.
Size, price should be a competitor for Bronco. But I just thought of this in my head. But you're not seeing that anywhere. I haven't seen the media. I've never done a comparison like that. I haven't seen the media do comparisons like that.
Well, I don't think Land Rover wants to downgrade themselves in like, oh, you put that name next to Ford and they're like, oh, we're so much better. That I think maybe it's a status thing of why probably neither company pushed that.
Yeah.
And I couldn't even tell you the sales numbers of the Rover. I see a few, but
Not Rover, Land Cruiser.
Land Cruiser, or yeah, I'm sorry, too many companies with land in their name. Well, I think when you start to drive those, I bet you start seeing some
Yeah, it seems like and I think that would make some sense. You can put those competitors together because but yeah, I think it's a good thing. I think if you drive by the dealer lots and there's lots of vehicles and lots, I think that's a good sign. I don't think that's a bad sign. It's a good sign because consumers now can actually kick the tires and actually do stuff. I remember during COVID, people watched a lot of videos because they couldn't actually see the vehicles, right? And so now you can actually go see them, and you can then go back to the video and you can, okay, I've missed this point, or he brought up that point, and you can go back and forth. I think we have better informed consumers now because of more on dealership lots. And I wish I had a better relationship with some of my dealers because I would do a lot more comparison videos of just trim levels. But the thing is, like trim level comparisons, you can do it online too. So it's one of those things.
Yeah. So I know you have Ranger coming up, the Ranger drives, which, sadly, and I keep poking Ford at, hey, guy, hey, I'm over here. Remember the guy that's been promoting this for 2 years? Salt Lake City, I think, is where they're doing that, maybe?
Yeah, I think so. Yep.
Hopefully the weather's great for you on that. Real snowy and where you can't get the vehicles out and drive them. And
I'll be there for a while. I'll be there for 4 days.
4 days?
Yeah, the way the travel's worked out, I can't. It's just how things worked out in my little airport.
Hey, that's a great town, though. I love that town. That's a retirement town for me. That or somewhere in Texas. Me and Kelly's talked about. I love Salt Lake City, man.
Yeah, I'd go a little bit further south to St. George, Utah. St. George, Utah is just gorgeous. Yeah, so Ford Ranger drive, I'm excited for that. I'm really excited for that.
Well, now that you've had in them again, like to pump the.
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. Early in the show, you said how the Tacoma was taking so long to come out. Hello, Ford Ranger's like, hold my beer. It's like we did a video in May, and now it's almost a year. I mean, you're talking 10 months later, we can drive it.
Toyota didn't have that pesky UAW problem.
Right. So, I mean, I'm excited to drive the Ford Ranger. I'm really, like I've said a few times, the more I've drove the Colorado and the more I drove the Canyon, the less I liked them, which is kind of a weird thing to say. The more I found things I didn't like, more cheap things stood out to me, more material stood out to me. The 2-inch lift drives me nuts in some of those vehicles, getting in and out, that kind of deal. The Ford Ranger seems like it's really a good spot for me for getting in and out and for what they're doing features wise. And it's like they don't have as many different weird trims like the Tacoma has, but the trims they have kind of make sense. It's like, here you go. Here's your off-road version. Here's your kind of fancier version. Here's your base level version, right? It's kind of like, it's pretty cut and dry. It's not very things.
I do think they'll bring a trimmer in. I think this.
I think so.
Be a
The trimmer's so popular, yeah.
What a great name.
Yeah, the Tremor. I think if I were to buy another F-150, it has to be a Tremor. Like when I bought my Ram instead, but I was going to buy one. It's going to be a Tremor. I love the Tremor package. Yeah, I'm excited for that. I'm really excited to see, because then after that drive's over, I'll have been in and driven all the new midsize trucks, and I can't wait to do some pen and paper comparison thoughts. I've done some build and price thoughts in those trucks, but if after I've driven them all. I don't understand why Ford's dragging their feet on the 2.7. It's only the 2.3.
Yeah, that's a weird one.
Seems like they're dragging their feet on that one. And
do you think it's an issue of the trucks? The trucks they build that engine in one place in Ohio. Do you think it's trying to feed the machine of like trucks? That's a popular engine for F-150, and they're using it in the Bronco. Like they got a lot of mouths to feed with that engine.
I think it was UAW strike.
Yeah. Well, I remember at the launch they'd said it was going to come out. I think December is I think the truck was supposed to have been out by fall, and then December is when the 2.7 was supposed to.
Yeah, the UAW strike really hit them bad. Actually, Ford's CEO Jim Farley gave a speech the other day or conversation. I didn't see what he's talking. I didn't see the speech itself or the conversation, but I got in snippets, and he basically said, "Look, if we build another plant, we're going to really figure out where we're going to build it, because that UAW strike really pissed him off."
Yeah,
of course, Sean Fain.
Sean was not happy with that.
No, he had to fire back, and so I was like, "Oh God, here we go, fireworks again." And there's actually some conversation about the Ford Kentucky plant going on strike again. I don't quite understand.
I didn't finish an article I was reading on that. They never ratified the contract.
Something like that. Yeah, I've been trying to wrap my head around it. So basically, the strike was, going to ratify the contract, but the local UAW has something with the plant they haven't quite finalized yet, and so it's a very specific plant and UAW. Only those two are having an argument about vacation and health. I think it's the two big, it's always a thing, right? Benefits. And there's some argument over benefits. And so they're talking about going strike again, which is pretty interesting. It's going to push them back. Because you look at the Ford Ranger, look at Ford Super Duty. Yeah. Super Duty is taking forever to come out. And you can't even, and that's another reason why I bought the Ram over the Ford F-150 this year was I wasn't for sure I could get a new F-150 this year. Even this year, I mean, the 24s, we saw those in August, and they're not out yet. And so that's the thing. It's like that's a frustrating thing for a lot of consumers is they want the details. They want to know what they want to go buy one. They want to go build and price one. They want to go get one from the dealership, and it's not coming. The 24.
They had an issue with the UAW strike. It forced one of the third tier suppliers to go under. That's what I'm hearing, and because I've had a lot of people asking me about that, and that's hard news to cover because a lot of times you hide your
nothing public.
You just you hide that
public. Well, and during the strike videos I was doing, I was talking about the automakers would be fine. It's the third party suppliers going to be hurt, and so that's going to be the supply chain problem is getting the third party suppliers back and going, and then to feed the machine. The 24 to Colorado and Canyon, the same problem. They're still not shipping, and so there's been some issues there. So it is a frustrating time to buy a midsize truck right now because there's lots of cool things out there, but you just can't buy one, which is frustrating. But I think that like I said, I really wanted to spend more time with the Ford Ranger. I'm really curious. There's some confusion from the customer standpoint too, between like why would you buy a Ford Ranger over Ford Maverick, or why would you buy a Ford Ranger over F-150? And the F-150 isn't that much difference in price because they have such a wide range of F-150s. If you do apples to apples, you're still $15,000 more F-150 versus a Ranger. But if you don't care about some of those options, you can, and there's just a lot of conversation going on with the Ford Ranger. And I'll be curious to see how Ford rolls it out because the 2019 model was like, hey, we screwed up. Let's just bring it back to the United States. Here it is. Yeah. This one's the first time they've actually said, okay, we're going to do something a little more unique for the U.S. market, a little bit more focused. I should say not more unique, but they're a little more focused on that segment now than they used to be. So it's interesting what's going on with that.
Big Wheel Fab says the UAW strike could have been a blessing. Ford should have stockpiled parts. Well, that's not how on-time manufacturing works, unfortunately.
Yeah, unfortunately, everything. You'd like to think parts are stockpiled, all that kind of stuff builds up, but the plants are run very lean. That you have just enough parts to build those trucks a day, and it's on-time delivery.
When I worked for Nissan manufacturing, I was in charge of mirrors. Believe it, it's the weirdest little job, but I was making sure the mirrors got to the right side of the line, and would put them out there. And yes, we would on Fridays they would shove the order for Monday. Like that's how fast that they were needing parts was. Okay, here's our order for the Monday for the rest of the week, and then next Friday, guess what? Same thing. So, and because warehousing is expensive, if you've ever been to some of these manufacturing plants, some of the like the Michigan assembly plants, some of these plants that are building Broncos or the one in Kentucky building F-150s, they don't have a lot of land. Like they're kind of like they don't, I know like for Toyota in San Antonio and Nissan here in Middle Tennessee, they were smart about like, let's go big. We're only going to build this one plant in the United States. Where I think the old school mentality of like, oh, we'll just put little plants everywhere. They don't have warehousing space. You can't just shove parts where you want to. I mean, I wish they would, especially a pandemic. It would have been great for them. But I always say the pandemic, the one loser was Nissan and all that. They had all these great trucks sitting on lots. They never once went, hey, we have trucks. Look, guys, come, you need a truck. We still have some.
Nissan's a car company.
Yeah.
No, I'm excited for that. I leave tomorrow for Ram in Austin. I'm excited for that. I've been watching a few videos people are putting out early. Not a lot of them. I've seen some of the stuff they put out, and I think it's interesting. I didn't realize they have two bumpers. They have one that's steel and one that's plastic, and one looks like more like an SUV and one looks more like a truck. Right. And so you can actually order different bumpers.
So the kind of family that may not want that rugged truck look, it kind of sways them a little bit, I guess.
Yeah, I've never heard of that one before, and I didn't even pick up press materials. That's one thing that makes my job frustrating is that you'll read a press release, and then you'll drive the vehicle, right, and then you'll do your story, and then you don't get the full picture until, say, the build and price tool comes out. And it's like I've had so many times I was like, I'm bitching about there's not a plug here or a step here, hard to get in here, and it's a damn accessory you can bolt on, right?
Yeah.
And people are like, well, just bolt the accessory on. I'm like, oh, son of a, oh man, if I'd have known an accessory, I would have said, hey, I don't like this, but hey, for $45 or whatever, you can buy this accessory and put it on, right? So, but you don't know the information, you don't know what you don't know, and so
Right.
you just, I was surprised to hear that from somebody, and then somebody else pointed out with the Ram truck, they said it looked like a SUV. And I think it's very much the whole boxy SUV craze is now making trucks look, I don't know what the design styling is weird.
I don't think the new Ram is that much of a leap from the previous generation. So
no, but if you take a picture of the Ram front end and put like the Wagoneer like next to it, it definitely does have the same vibes, which is I don't know. Like it, love it, hate it. I mean, it's interesting. I have the forum at pickuptrucktalk.com. People have been talking about all sorts of different things over there. And I find it fascinating what consumers compare things to. Like they'll talk about, hey, I really like this colors. And I'm like, okay, or these wheels. And I'm like, all right, well, there's a whole other part of the vehicle. Like there's a lot of things going on. But then they dial in very specific things. And there's a whole like oil thread right now, and it's like, oh my goodness, we go full in on stuff. So it is, I think it's interesting what's going on and what consumers actually really focus on versus journalists focus on. Like we're trying to cover this whole vehicle, this whole kind of stuff, and I'll put a video up and they're like, oh yeah, I like at the 25-minute mark, it's this right here, I like this item. I'm like, oh okay, well you see it so many times. Like I do so many reviews a year. Sometimes I miss small details like that, which is frustrating.
Yeah, I definitely recommend everybody go over to your forum. I think it's a unique way to interact, one, with your audience, or I hang out there a lot. Anybody, I say any journalist should go over there and just be a part of your forum, because it's great for ideas for what we do, but it's nice to get real feedback. Like the feedback you get on videos is either pro or con. There is no like in between. And I think the forums give you a better chance to write your story out of, here's my problems, or here's what I want you to cover, or just sharing information with, hey, I'm doing this with my vehicle. You have the same vehicle, you should try to do this. So I think it's a great way to interact with everybody. And you see in the comments, like I see Elliot just pop in, who's part of yours. Steve P hangs out in mine a lot. It's a good way to merge your audience and join in there. So I definitely suggest that, because Tim doesn't keep it like PG as far as like topics. Like there's some, like you guys get into it a little bit over there, like, hey, this is what I like, or I don't like this. So I'm a big fan of the forum.
Yeah, and we talk about other channels, and we're not being rude to other channels on there. I just find it interesting. Like they're like, hey, I didn't like this, that the way the guy presented this. Okay, interesting. So, and I take it as constructive criticism of myself too. Like, oh, am I doing that thing? Can I make myself better? And what I like about the forums too is people, like, they get involved. They're not snarky about it. There's no like 17 comment thread on YouTube. You have to register. You have to actually be part of the community, and I curate the hell out of that thing. I read everything.
It's free. It doesn't cost you anything to
right. And somebody pointed out to me, they're like, what's great about it is they feel like they get the behind the scenes look at YouTube and behind the scenes of journalism over there. And yeah, I share a lot of behind the scenes stuff because it's what I don't care. And I'll put stuff on there. Like the other day, Tuesday night, I flew down to Denver and picked up the ZR2. I don't normally do that. And it was a hour flight and a 3-hour drive home. So I left at 6. I left at like 5 and got home like 11. So it's like a 6-hour day. But I just wanted the truck faster.
Yeah.
But I mean, they didn't have anybody there to deliver it on Tuesday. I'm doing some more car stuff, and so I was putting more cars in my fleet, in my loan list, and that kind of stuff. And I was out of press loans, but driving 62 around and 62 Lost Park, and been kind of an adventure with that. So I just flew down and got it. And so it was kind of fun to show the audience that behind the scenes and that stuff. I mean, it won't make the video because it doesn't matter to the video. But yeah,
definitely. Rumor has it you may be doing a new channel. I haven't heard you talk much about it. Is there? I know you've got there's a car journalist that would love to work with you. Anything going on with that?
Yeah, so I think that's going to happen. So I have a friend who runs the Awesomer, Paul Strauss, been a friend of mine for years and years and years. And he needs some more content. I gave him a car last year. I happen to have a car in my rotation. So what happens is I'm a long distance loan, so they want to do like 6, 7 cars or trucks and SUVs back to back because it's cheaper for them to bring a car up and swap than it is send 2 drivers up at the same time.
Yeah.
And so I got a car in my mix because he didn't have a vehicle at that time, but had something else scheduled. And I sent to Paul, and Paul ran it and loved it. And he needs some more. He just got monetized again, but I want to kind of get his channel going a little bit more. So, and I was like, well, I have this car coming anyways. Why not just do it over there? Then I thought to myself, well, I can do a video for him and a video for me. I can make that pretty easy. And it's interesting because I think I'm just going to call it Tim Talks Cars. I think that's the simplest thing. I think what people have said, they want that name. I asked the audience. It seems like that's the winner. But what's interesting about it is in April, there's a new event Toyota's doing where they're having, I can't speak to the vehicles, but there's a collection of cars and SUVs. And so it'll be nice. I'll be able to do car content and make that event more useful for me and do truck content too. So I feel like it's going to be a good thing overall because a lot of times, like the other thing too is like there's certain brands that I don't know that well. Honda. I don't know that well because I know the Ridgeline really well and I know the CRV pretty well, but like I haven't been in an Accord in 20 years.
Cars basically is what he's saying.
Yeah, yeah, I haven't done cars because there's so much audience, but now it's like if I'm gonna get the vehicle anyways, and I go to events where there's cars there, and I actually sat in the Corvette in Chicago and sent pictures of my kids because they love the Corvette, and I actually like the Corvette. I thought it was pretty damn sweet. So
you do have some. I think you do have those jean shorts. So you would be perfect.
Right. But so one of my friends, Manny Katakis, has been really successful over the last couple of years, and he started a channel. He has a YouTube channel, but really a website, and it's musclecarsandtrucks.com. And it's like the best thing because I was thinking, a lot of truck guys like Mustangs and they like Camaros and such. They like muscle cars too. So it seems like a natural fit. I don't know that a Camry would do as well as say a Dodge Hellcat, but like I just think to myself, I'm around these cars anyways. I'm at events with these cars. It's not that hard to shoot another video while I'm standing right there. And I'm going to talk about powertrains that are basically in other vehicles because all the automakers are sharing powertrains. They're sharing infotainment systems. They're sharing design. And so it should be pretty easy to talk about. So I took my personal channel, deleted a bunch of my golf videos and my fitness videos, that kind of stuff. And so
what?
Yeah, I'm going to rename it. And then I have 3 videos on there. One is Tacoma Stuck in the Sand, which I put over there because before I started YouTube. The other one, my brother owned 2 Camaros that were 50 years apart, and I did a video comparing those two. It's like 67 versus like a 20. What it was? They're 50 years apart. I can't remember the ages. I had that video and have another video where my friend and I are driving a Chrysler 300 around Denver with no hands, and that video always freaks people out. So I'm like, that's the thing. It's like I feel like I'm getting this stuff anyway, so why not just do it? I won't do it as well as other channels, but I'll do my personal practical take on things like I have for years. I think there's some value there. And like I said, if I'm going to start taking cars, then I'll do something for Paul to get him going. I'll do my own little thing and then see what happens. People have the concerns where I'll get distracted too much and I won't do truck coverage as well. That's not going to happen.
If you ever meet Tim, he's a truck guy. You can't get trucks out of Tim.
Yeah, well, my wife wanted to call it like truck guy and cars, and I was like, I was like, let's just
tell you, man. I laid the perfect name out for you.
Well, what was your comment?
Instead of pickup, auto. What was it? Auto and CUV talk.
Oh yeah, auto plus CUV. Yeah, I read these things. I just think simply Tim Talks Cars, and I'm worried about my kids. Like I want to give my kids a legacy they could take the channel, do something with. And then I realized that you can change your channel name. Mm-hmm. So if the kids get involved, we'll just make the channel name different or something. So
I don't know. Your one son likes Rocket League a lot. So if you don't want him driving cars like that, so he'll be bouncing off ceilings.
Yeah. So that's kind of where I'm going to go with. I don't know that's going to go as far, but I mean, to be honest with you, I've done truck coverage for so long, I can do it in my sleep, and so I'm not worried about that.
Sometimes you want a new challenge.
Yeah, new challenge. Yeah, always new challenge.
Text Eric, can you post the best dealerships to buy a truck at, zero markups, discounts? That's a great place for the forum that Tim has.
Yeah, you can. People do lists on forums all the time.
Yeah,
look for specific. Like I know the Tacoma, there was a list going around of dealerships just no markups. That's where you're gonna look. The no scam stuff. Forums. Yeah, forums. It's hard.
Forums usually take care of those people real quick, and it's a good. I hate to see on Facebook, hey, where's the best place to buy because it's not curated. Go to a forum. I know they sometimes feel old school, but it's the best place for curated information. People debate it, and you find out, well, maybe this guy was just full of shit. He was a dealer trying to get in on a forum, and people do like, no, you screwed me over. Like, it's just a best place to get curated information. So I'm big on forums. Big on forums.
Yeah, and I'm also tired of Facebook stuff, and you get so many bad comments. People just smirk off all these things they think they saw one time, and then you type that same comment in a forum, they get blown up, and that's why they don't do it.
Yep. So Tim, this week, what do you got going on, man? I look at your website now. It looks like if you guys don't know, go over to Pickup Truck Plus SUV Talk, or no, just pickuptrucktalk.com. And
Plus was going to cause us.
Looks like you did a recap of some Chicago and.
Yeah, so the Chicago show was. We have more coverage going on there. We're doing a whole. There's a new tab on called Video, and I figured out how to put more videos on the website. And you actually, if you go to the Video tab, you can click on a post, and it has a play button right at the top. And so it's kind of nice. You don't have to. I'm going to start doing that for all the videos. Yeah, right there. You can hit play, and there's a video. So it's nice.
And you get Tim screaming at you, or Jill screaming at you there. So
that was Drew and his brother were behind us. That was a car confection, guys. So we have that going on. It seems like people are mad at me. They want me to follow up on the Cybertruck Rust story. Somebody's like, he wants me to fly to California and get a professional detailer and all kinds of stuff. And I was like, it's not that important to me to do the follow up on that. It's going to get solved in the forums. But I will tell you right now, people always say, like, get a detailer, talk to a mechanic. They know everything. I've talked to so many detailers and so many mechanics over the years. They all have opinions. They will all tell you one vehicle's better or one spray's better than another. I mean, there is no, like, I'm a professional mechanic, this is how all cars are. That does not exist. I've had roommates mechanics, and they basically tell me, it's like, look, every vehicle's gonna have a problem. That's what they do. I mean, so no, I have a bunch of stuff with the Ram that I'm going to this week. I get a Mercedes-Benz CLA. I think it's the first of the car stuff. Let me check. I don't know. I will say this. I haven't loved Mercedes-Benz SUVs. I don't like what they're doing with those. And so again, another reason why I can get the car is maybe I would understand the brand better if I drove more of their vehicles. Yeah, it's a Mercedes-Benz CLA 250 C4, a Kia EV9, which we've covered the hell out of it, and a Dodge Hornet, which is interesting. The Dodge Hornet, I saw a story in Dodge Hornet saying that even though it's better in many ways than other competitors, it's not selling. So I'll have to dig into that and see what's going on there.
Their brand, man. Like at some point that brand just needs to, for one, get away from Chrysler. Just kill Chrysler. If you're going to do anything, just car-wise, Dodge trucks, leave it to the Ram, and that's it, man. There's too many mouths to feed.
And then we have the Ranger Drive, and then we have the Toyota Drive 1st of April. So lots of stuff going on.
Well, I'm very jealous of the OneDrive, definitely. But my Ranger gets built the week of March 18th, and I've heard it's actually the day of March 19th. So it's a Tuesday it gets built on. And I probably won't get to see it till middle to late April, which bums me out because I was hoping we have a Bronco show we're going to, and I was hoping to have that truck to display in our booth as well because I know it'd bring a lot of foot traffic to our booth that we do. And but who knows? If we get it, we don't. I'm still enjoying the Mustang. Believe it or not, bought Kelly a Mustang. Somehow it's turned into my car because I cannot V8s, man. It's just like you drove the TRX, the Raptor R or Ranger, Raptor R. You start a V8. It just gets your blood going, and you just want to kind of get into it. And unfortunately, this is the last for V8s, but it still makes me excited, man. So it'll be a tough day to get rid of that one, but I cannot wait for my Rangers. So guys, in the comments below, if you haven't yet, whether it's on Tim's side or my side, leave us a comment. Let us know. You guys are the captains of the ship, so we pay attention to these comments, and we try to sway the talk to what you guys want to talk about. And this is definitely Midsize. If there's any other channels out there that me and Tim may not know about, link them to our channels. Let us know. We'll be glad to try to get those guys on the channel and or ladies and see if we can talk trucks with them. So Tim, it's been a good one, buddy. It was great to see you in Chicago again. Great to have some drinks. I won't say how many, but we had a lot of fun, and talk trucks again. So till next time, everybody, whether it be 2-wheel drive, 4-wheel drive, doesn't matter what you drive. And Tim, take it out.
We will see you down the road.
Later.